Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL's hidden history reporter, Heather Leah, we're talking about North Carolina's ghost towns, another fun summer excursion off the grid. We're talking about where they are and are they places that we can visit. Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So I love the thought in your story online about this where you talk about a lot of these places, again, are hidden in plain sight. You know, we might drive right by them and not even realize they're there. Why do you think ghost towns specifically, you know, I know this is one of your big interests, is the supernatural. Why are they so fascinating?
You know, I think a lot of the ghost towns in North Carolina were destroyed either by war or by floods. And I think we love to see where humanity used to live, but somehow we were pushed out by nature. And then you watch nature overtake like houses and churches and schools. And there's just something about seeing where humanity used to thrive, but nature overtook it, that gives us a little bit of a thrill, but a little bit of a scare because we don't want to imagine
that happening to our communities.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I think of, you know, when I'm hiking in Umstead, for example, and you see like a crumbling chimney, and you're like, what was there? What was there? So a lot of these in North Carolina, specifically these ghost towns, quote unquote, are colonial settlements. One of these locations is Portsmouth Island, and it's remained pretty much untouched because you have to go by boat. So tell me about Portsmouth Island. What's there? And is that a place that you can visit?
Yeah, so you can visit Portsmouth Island. I want to go there very badly. I would say it's a little trickier to get to it because you have to find a ferry who can take you there. And there are ferries that can take you there. But, you know, you have to be willing to go through quite a drive and then a ferry ride and all of that. But I've been wanting to see it desperately because it is so untouched. It has a surprising number of surviving structures. It's got a church, a school, a post office, a general store, a historic house, and one of the life-saving stations. It was a mid-1800s village established on an island, and it was kind of destroyed with the coming of the Civil War. So obviously, if you're on an island, you've got to worry about hurricanes. And this island, it's kept it very untouched by the modern world. But as the Civil War came in, all those islands were at risk of being marched on by Union troops. And so a lot of people wanted to move further inland and kind of escape that and get to safety.
And so they abandoned these areas.
Yeah, they fled as the Union Army marched down the Outer Banks.
So Brunswick Town is another colonial town, and that is accessible. You can walk through the ruins. Yeah. What would people see there, and where is it?
So Brunswick Town is also along the coast, but you don't have to take a boat. You can just drive to it. First of all, it has this incredible St. Philip's Anglican Church, which is the huge skeleton of this building is still there, and you can walk through it. Very visual. It's got the Spanish moss hanging out of the trees. It just really has a vibe. There's a museum there, so you can learn about what happened here. The church has actual like cannonball holes in it, or not holes, but like where the cannonballs hit it and didn't form a hole. That's why the church is still standing, because it was able to survive
very strong
tornadoes, cannonballs, hurricanes. But you can see the damage. It also has a bunch of tiny foundations of homes, so you can see like where the village stood. And the historians there said they're still discovering things as they go through and dig. They'll find something new, and they've been piecing it together like a jigsaw puzzle. This was the shop. This was this person's house, and really trying to figure out what everything was. You can see all of it. They also have an enormous footprint. So you see the smaller footprints of the regular homes, and then there's the original governor's mansion still out there, the ruins of Russellborough, and you can walk through the footprint of this mansion and see how huge it is and see where it was laid out. But This town was destroyed by British soldiers during the Revolutionary War. In fact, there was all these rumors that they were coming, the British soldiers were coming, and people began to flee the town out of fear. And then, of course, they actually were put under attack. Many people didn't come back. Interestingly, the town also has a Civil War base because later soldiers began to use it during the Civil War because there were all these, ruins and hillsides there that they could hide in. So there's a lot to see out there. There's a lot to see out there, and you can just go.
Well, that sounds really interesting. We are going to be back after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So we're talking about ghost towns in North Carolina, and we talked about the coast. Now let's talk about the mountains. There's a lot of history there as well. So there is an abandoned theme park referred to as Maggie Valley's Ghost Town in the Sky. This one is not accessible, but it's a great legend. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So to be clear, the other places we're going to talk about, you can visit. This one you cannot visit. Now, it's interesting. Over the decades, there have been two abandoned theme parks on top of mountains. The Land of Oz is the other one that for a long time was abandoned. It is not anymore, but for quite a while it was. And this is the other one. So if you look at a satellite view, you can actually still see the Ghost Town in the Sky theme park. Now, this isn't a real ghost town. This is a theme park that was meant to look like a ghost town. But you can look and see that the old amusement park rides are still up there. It was meant to feel like an old Western ghost town with a creaky wooden facades to the buildings and an old saloon. You can see that there's a looping roller coaster that's still up there today. It enjoyed its heyday in like the 70s and 80s, kind of like the Land of Oz. I guess that probably during that era, these mountaintop adventures where you could go and ride on rides on top of a mountain was very popular.
And so it closed and
it's remained vacant for a little over a decade. So you cannot go there, but you can see it on satellite view and see what it looks like.
So there's also Mortimer. That's off a hiking trail in the Pisgah Forest. And tell us what's there and how can people see it.
So there's a collection of ghost towns all around that area. We've got Mortimer, and then also out in the mountains, there's Proctor, and then there's Judson. So there were a few ghost towns out there that were created when they flooded that area. And so Mortimer is one that there's a little bit still remaining, but you have to hike to get to Mortimer. It was built along Wilson Creek over a century ago. It was a lumber town. This one is in Caldwell County, and you can't really see it from satellite view because it's all in the trees, but there are ruins in the woods, slowly being reclaimed by the forest. There's the remnants of a cotton mill, overgrown foundations of crumbling buildings. They can be found in the woods along Wilson Creek. And this is a place where you can go near the Mortimer Campground in the Pisgah National Forest and hike into the woods and find them. Proctor is similar. Again, another one. This one is out more towards Swain County, but Proctor is another ghost town that you can hike to it and find it. So there's a few ghost towns out there in the mountains.
Sounds like a fun adventure. Another one, and I think this one's more easily accessible, is the Henry River Mill Village. I mean, this is a place you can go look at. You can even stay overnight. So where is that, and then what's there?
Yeah, so this is more in the foothills of the mountains, right? As you're leaving the mountains, you'll kind of pass by this on the way out. I've driven past it so many times, and I haven't stopped there yet, but I want to. So it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2019. So they've done a lot of restoration there. For a while, it was very abandoned and overgrown, but they've started to restore. And if you saw the Hunger Games, this was the set in the Hunger Games of Katniss's district, right?
Oh,
so
that's really another big draw for people.
It is. And I think that's part of why they've turned it into a place where you can visit as part of tourism. But it really gives you, there's quite a few remaining wooden structures of this century-old mill village. It really gives you a glimpse into the historic life of these little mountain mill villages that you would have that a lot of them have been abandoned, but this one has been restored. The mill was lost in the 1970s, and people slowly left the town behind. Some of the town was lost to fire or decay, but there are still quite a few buildings out there, and you can go and stay there overnight and explore it. So definitely a cool place to visit.
Yeah. Heather, thank you so much for sharing these fun summer excursions. It is never too early to talk about ghosts, is it?
No.
It does not have to be Halloween for us to talk about ghosts. Well, these are really fun off the beaten path excursions. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. If you'd like to hear more about things to do, places to visit, restaurants to enjoy in North Carolina, check out WRAL Out and About, a weekly podcast from WRAL News. You can find Out and About in your podcast app. Thanks again for listening.